Joe Biden's State of the Union is finally done. The best thing about the entire speech was when it was finally over. Hopefully we are not going to have to listen to another one of those again from the super angry old man that is occupying the White House right now. I think the only thing that he didn't say last night, which I was waiting for, I was hanging on by the edge of my seat. I was like, is he going to yell, "Get off my lawn" to the Republicans yet? It's crazy how he came across. Now, State of the Union addresses, I covered this yesterday, how I personally do not like them, but there is a part of it where you're pretty much supposed to unite the country, right? You're supposed to unite both parties, come together with a message forward. He did anything but that. That was definitely one of the most divisive State of the Unions any president has ever given. That's why I also talked about how this was a campaign speech for Biden. He was trying to reach out to his base, his voters, the independents out there, to try and get them to vote for him come this November. I took 3 big takeaways from the speech though, and it all started out right off the bat. So essentially, here's what I took away from it is MAGA Republicans are the same as Putin. They come hand in hand. They're both a threat to this country. The second big takeaway that I got away from it, according to Joe Biden, is everything that is bad in this country right now is due to Donald Trump, is due to MAGA Republicans and all the horrible corporations that so many Democrats are in bed with. They won't admit that, but they have no problem whatsoever constantly demonizing these corporations that help them out on a constant basis. The key takeaway that I've gotten from this White House, from this president and all of his staff, is they are full of lies all the time. No matter what they do, they always stretch the truth. Now, you're always going to have a president who, he'll go above and beyond to make something seem a little bit more fabulous than it really is, or they won't put as big of a deal on something bad that has happened. That's always been politics. But this president cannot stop lying, whether he's talking about his past, whether he's talking about his accomplishments, all these different things, which is easy for Americans to look up. Listen, we got these things called search engines. We could look these up as long as you're not getting directed by Google to some false fact checker that puts it in a context that makes it like, oh, that's not false. He just misrepresented it in a certain way. So as I was going through the articles, kind of hearing about the feedback from so many out there talking about what the speech looked like last night, one that really caught my eye was the Federalist put out a pretty much 30 lies that Biden told last night, written by Sean Fleetwood. And I went through, and there were some of them that were kind of petty, and I didn't want to throw those in there, so I'm not going to go over all 30 of the lies that they did list. I am going to go over some of the notable ones, and some that are kind of minor, that are not that big of a deal, but let's go over a few of those lies that they did mention. The number 1 lie that they listed was sending money to Ukraine. Here's what they say. So Biden claimed that Republicans who oppose sending additional U.S. taxpayers' dollars to Ukraine are doing so because they want America to walk away from our leadership in the world. That is false. Opponents of endlessly funding Ukraine's war with Russia have regularly stated that Americans' interests must come before those of other nations. This is just common sense, guys, especially at the State of the Union address. Don't be sending a crap ton of money to these other countries when we have an invasion happening in our border right now. We have all these crises in our own country, and they're like, you know what? No, we got to send more money to Ukraine. All the Republicans are saying, it's like, okay. So most conservative Republicans right now in DC are saying is like, guys, okay, we'll give you what you want, but we need to make sure we secure this border. We need to make sure that we take care of our country first before we start sending all this money over to Ukraine. Another one of those lies was when he was talking about the January 6th demonstrations. Listen, this has been their golden pot that they fall back on all the time when they are attacking Trump, that he's an insurrectionist. All this is based on that January 6th date. So here's what they say out of the Federalist. The president claimed that the January 6th, 2021 demonstrations at the U.S. Capitol and concerns and lawsuits regarding the integrity of the 2020 election pose the greatest threat to American democracy since the Civil War. I mean, Civil War, guys, I think they also mentioned something about World War II, how he just mentions how this is the greatest threat since the Civil War. It's so ridiculous. We all know that January 6th, there's a bunch of crap that happened that should not have happened. But the fact that it was a huge threat to democracy is so ludicrous. For him to keep on saying that, the only reason he's saying that is to get voters to pretty much get away from the insurrectionists and the orange man, Donald Trump, and make sure that they do vote for him. Another lie is going to be about the COVID shots and cancer. And I've heard a few different things on this, but let's kind of see what the Federalist says. Biden falsely claimed the COVID jabs are now being used to help beat cancer. Now, I have heard certain things where I had like this mRNA technology could potentially help with cancer. That's fine. I haven't seen anything to solidify that, but I can see how he's said it so many times. It seems like every single year he's talking about this. We have not seen any conclusions out of it whatsoever. Who knows? I mean, guys, I'm all about anything that's going to beat cancer. If that mRNA technology does end up giving us a cure for cancer, fantastic. But don't sit there and constantly tout it as if Joe Biden is the one who is going to be solving cancer. The next slide is going to be when he's talking about how he added 15 million new jobs to the economy. This is such bullshit. We know that we came out of a pandemic. There was a ton of jobs that were lost. So we gained back some of those jobs, and Biden claims that those are jobs that he added back into the workforce. Let's see what the Federalist says about it. The president regurgitated the lie that his administration had created 15 million new jobs. That assertion is false, as Biden conflated jobs recovered after COVID lockdowns with actual new jobs created. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. When you have people who are coming back in the workforce from the pandemic after being locked down, after having to stay in their houses, of course you're going to see a lot of new jobs coming back. There is one thing that I always hear, though, they talk about a lot of these jobs that people are coming back into are part-time jobs. And so before you had one job that supplied your income, your lifestyle. Now there's so many, you see it on all these different platforms, social media platforms. People complain about how they're having to get multiple part-time jobs just to make ends meet. The next slide is going to be when he talked about consumer confidence. This is such bullshit. I'm just going to ask you guys right off the bat, do you feel like you're confident in this economy right now? I didn't think so. So the Federalist says this. The president said that consumer studies show consumer confidence is soaring. MarketWatch reported last month, however, that the consumer confidence index fell to 106.7 from a revised 110.9 in January. We know consumers are not confident in this economy right now, whether it be holding out to see whether we're going to have a recession, holding out to see whether we're going to have hyperinflation, stagflation. We don't know what's going to happen. And so we know that consumers are not confident the way that Joe Biden is saying. I didn't realize how many of these lies I wrote down. I thought I'd cut it down quite a bit, but there's a lot out here, so bear with me. The next one that he went over was drug prices. He talks about this all the time, how he's lowering drug prices. According to the Federalist, Biden said he's ending the trend of Americans paying more for prescription drugs than anywhere else. That is false, as Reuters recently reported that drugs released by pharmaceutical companies last year were at prices 35% higher than in 2022. The next one, student loans. This one gets me heated just because I cannot stand that Biden went against the Supreme Court. He decided to take a few digs at them last night too, which is so classless as a president. As a uniter, you're supposed to be uniting this country, and you're seriously attacking the Supreme Court. With the federal, so according to the student loans, Biden contended that he fixed student loan programs to reduce the burden of student debt for nearly 4 million Americans, including nurses, firefighters, and others in public service. That is false. Biden's illegal efforts merely transferred the responsibility of paying back these loans to individuals who never attended college or had already paid back their loans. This is, I was actually talking to someone about this morning. How much do you want to bet? I wish I could look at the statistics where when they're looking at paying off these student loans, how much do you want to bet that it's heavily weighed towards those who vote Democrat? He's just buying votes. That's the whole reason for this student forgiveness program. He's trying to get as many votes as possible. And so he's like, you know what? I'll pay this off. And then guess what? You're going to return the favor back in November. That's what we're going to do. And that's how we're going to play this game. I'm going to cut a few of these out, but let's go on to this next one. I don't want to keep you guys too long. So decreasing the federal deficit. This is such bullshit. According to the Federalist, Biden falsely claimed that he cut the federal deficit by over $1 trillion and has been delivering real results in a fiscally responsible way. Both claims are false. In fact, the U.S. national debt has risen by more than $6 trillion since Biden took office. Biden is adding so much money to the debt. For him to claim that he's a budget cutter and he's a super fiscal responsible president is so ludicrous. We know it's not true as we see those debt numbers going up and up and up. I'm not sure how he's going to play this game if he does end up having to debate Trump, or how he's going to commute that whole, there will always be those libtards out there who will always believe, oh, he's a huge deficit cutter and all this crap. It's such BS. All you have to do is a simple Google search to find that it is not true. All right, I'm going to skip a couple. I'm going to go to this one. So election law falsehoods. The president insinuated that Republican-backed election integrity measures supported by most Americans take us back in time and constitute voter suppression and election subversion. There has never been any evidence these laws do what the president suggested. They don't want people to have IDs when they vote, guys. This is what it is. They don't want them to know who they are in the event that they aren't that person or they are illegal. Listen, Georgia passed voter ID and they had more black voters show up than ever before. This is ridiculous. I can't believe that the black voters would fall for this. They're pretty much saying, you know what, you're too stupid to go out there and get your own ID. And so we're going to make it easier for you to vote to where you don't have to show your ID. But if you're going to go out and buy some alcohol, you have to show your ID then. It's bullshit. You know, it's just them trying to rig the election. All these legals that are flooding in, just go in there. They're like, all right, here's the name you need to say you are. You don't have to worry about showing a voter ID. Go in there, vote, and here's how you need to vote. That's what this is all about. Another lie they're talking about was the Second Amendment. According to the Federalist, the president falsely claimed that the ban on so-called assault weapons doesn't constitute a violation of the Second Amendment. I agree. I don't know what he gets about shall not be infringed. Also, does he note that the Columbine tragedy that happened back in Colorado happened during an assault weapons ban? The second to last one is going to be the Gaza deaths. According to the Federalist, Biden said that most of the people killed in Gaza are not Hamas, including thousands who are innocent women and children. Given that these figures are provided by local authorities, aka Hamas, is unknown whether they are accurate. The fact that the president is quoting these numbers based on what Hamas is telling them is such a derelict of duty. We have our own intelligence. I guarantee that we know how many people are like civilians and then also Hamas have been killed. Also to note on that is Hamas hires a lot of teenage boys in order to fight in their military. So they're claiming that they're kids when really they were working with Hamas. Same with, I wouldn't doubt it if women were doing the same thing. They're saying that they're innocent civilians when really their coordinated attacks are in conjunction with Hamas. And the final lie that I'm talking about in the Federalist was the idea of America. Here's what they say. Biden ludicrously claimed that America has never fully lived up to the idea that we are all created equal. This is another thing that I claim is BS. I think that we are more divided than ever. We are more racist than we have been in decades in regards to equality and everything within the United States. This is just more race baiting out of this White House, which does nothing but divide this country more and more. Yeah, that's my biggest pet peeve is how much this White House lies. I cannot watch Karine Jean-Pierre. She's just horrible up there lying the entire time. If she's not just shoving it aside saying, oh, I can't answer that. I can't, oh, you have to talk to the campaign. You talk to the security team, any of that stuff. Just this White House is horrible and they lie constantly, but we know that Americans are waking up. We know that Americans are looking like, hey, you're saying this economy is great. You're saying that consumer confidence is great, but I'm paying more than for groceries. I'm paying more for gas and everything than ever. They know that that is not true. There are select few who will take their word for it. I'm sure, you know, they're the ones who are still going to be voting for Biden, but this is just, it was ridiculous last night. It was just hard to watch. And a quick note, like on the Republicans' response with Katie Britt, you know what? She's a great senator. She's an up and coming hardcore conservative. I love that. I don't think it was very tasteful to do it in that way. And plus, I don't know if it was happening with you guys, but it was kind of glitching a little bit. It looked a little bit like AI-y a little bit. And so I didn't really like that. And it looked like she had a green screen behind her. I see what she was going for. She was going to try and talk to the mothers out there, you know, the families out there and really get in touch with them. Maybe it worked. I don't know. I asked my wife about it. She said that she didn't really get a real warm feeling out of it as well. I hope it did work. Maybe she did connect with a few families out there, a few parents and such. Only time will tell, I guess, when we see this November. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I just ask that you do follow along this channel. Give me some love a little bit. And until next time, stay free.